Welcome to another episode of Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast. Join us while we route auxiliary power through the deflector dish and blast our board cubes. I'm Lars.
I'm Patrick, and boy, I'm gonna blast her board cubes. Wait, whatever. I have what the shit? I can't even come up with something perverted off of what you do. What the hell's wrong with you? Seriously.
The list is long and distinguished. In this episode, we're reviewing episode 5 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard entitled Imposters. We're at the halfway mark in the final season, and shit's about to get real.
Yeah, pretty much. So, let's just skip the prelims, because you probably have watched it by now, and if you haven't, seriously. So, spoiler alert for that, so let's get into this. Let's see here. Let's start with the basics. The teaser, it's basically Jack Crusher walks onto the bridge and starts shooting people. Oh, and it's just some thing in his head, because we gotta get our mystery box cocked extra hard, because mystery box, baby, yeah!
Yeah, the Jack Crusher boner thing is really going right now, but I guess, look, this is kind of what they've wrapped this whole season around, other than it being the TNG reunion tour, so I guess they kind of really got to put their backs into it so it pays off.
Yep, and so yeah, we go from there, and so we get into the episode. Picard, Riker, Shaw, and Seven are all talking about how a changeling was able to get aboard the ship. They go on about that a little bit. The protocols they've had since the Dominion War to make sure they don't get infiltration. And then, of course, Shaw points that it's at some point they decide, it's time to go back and face the music for everything did. Shaw, of course, says he's going to leave them, and as a courtesy, this is the quote, because of the harrowing ordeal we all survived together, I'm going to step outside so the three of you can get your bullshit story straight. Because he's still an asshole.
Yeah, but still, that's a good dick move. I mean, at least he could have turned around and said, you know what? Because Riker hands command of the Titan back to Shaw, and Shaw's first act, of course, is to let them know that he has already called Starfleet and they're on their way, and that as a courtesy, he's going to allow them to get their bullshit story straight. However, he didn't have to do that. He could have just totally said, you know what? I'm done with you guys. I'm putting you all in the brig. He even reinstates Seven to her position. You know, he gives her the option. Would you rather face said music stated or unstated?
And then he knights her.
Yeah, he sort of mock knights her. Again, character is definitely doing a lot of growth, and it was really easy to hate him in episode 1, but it's slowly as we get along, you're starting to see that this guy is just...
We hate him.
Yeah, you love to hate him, but he's good value. He's showing that he actually has... He has a spine, and he has morals.
Yep. So after that little thing, Picard basically says he's going to take responsibility, because that's his thing. He then goes to meet with the Crushers, explains everything off, and they discuss some things, including why the dead changeling is still holding form. So he sends Beverly off to examine that, which is the really interesting part, because we find out that Sidney LaForge... Oh, yeah, we don't find out in this episode that Sidney LaForge is actually Geordi LaForge's daughter.
Wait.
They didn't say that for the first time.
Wait a minute. You're saying that Sidney LaForge is Geordi LaForge's daughter?
And they didn't say it this time. So I think that was the thing. They did that the first 3 episodes just to build up that 4th episode obvious reveal, which was great.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah.
It paid off.
Yep. So, obviously, Jean-Luc's trying to get Jack Crusher into Starfleet, and he says, nope, that's not going to be happening.
Yeah, he's like, nah, thanks, but no thanks, boss.
So we cut to Raffi and Worf doing some fighting. Of course, Worf disarms her, headbutts her, and he wins. They continue fighting, and then at some point he goes and into his meditative shit. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
So we get a communication from Starfleet intelligence. It's Worf's handler making contact. and basically denies her pretty much everything. So they said, we're going to go, since we can't, since Sneed no longer has a good head on his shoulders, they're going to go find the other dude that might have some information, Kryn, who's another prime kingpin. So they go to the streets, and the streets clear out because obviously they killed Sneed and all that, so it's going to be a challenge. They call out, and they basically want to... Worf decides to kneel in the middle of the street again, and he's basically waiting for things to happen because it's Worf, and he's Warrior Monk Worf now, and it's awesome.
Is it safe to say that Worf is the Mr. Miyagi of Picard?
No, Worf could kick Mr. Miyagi's ass and take a knife in the gut.
But that doesn't happen.
No. So, we cut back to the Titan, which gets met by the USS Intrepid, which, of course, orders them to stand down, and they find out a shuttlecraft is coming with a security team.
And the security team is insisting on coming over via what? Via shuttle.
Yep. Yeah, which is kind of weird, but either way, the security officers insisted using the shuttles. And I think it's because we find out, because when we see them use the transporter later, and this is a little spoilery, we see that they kind of shimmer a little bit in their form whenever they transport. Because obviously more changelings. Because apparently there are a lot of changelings. So Riker, Picard, and Shaw go down to meet him, and Shaw's humming it to him because he's all happy and shit. Because yeah,
I think the word you were looking for, you said he was feeling chipper.
Chipper, yeah. Of course, they point out that they've saved the galaxy a few times, and I'll just give it. We have saved the galaxy more than a few times, and hopefully they'll remember. Or they might remember that time that someone hot dropped the sausage section of the Enterprise D on a planet. Or that time someone threw the Prime Directive out the window so they could snog a villager on Baku. Or the time you boys nearly wiped out all humanity by creating a time paradox in the Devron system. Basically, when it comes to rescues from danger, you two have a real chicken and egg thing happening. Riker then goes, those were the days.
Actually, that was Picard's line, but still.
Or as Picard says it. Either way, Riker and Picard were enjoying that shit.
But, I mean, it's like some of the best lines in this episode are given to Shaw. So, I just had a hard time really hating this episode. Even with the part where he's humming and being chipper because he knows that Riker and Picard are basically going to get their asses handed to them. He even says that they're about to get your asses handed to you. Oh, side note, just a neat little piece of trivia. The class of ship that the Intrepid is in this episode is known as the Duderstadt. The Duderstadt.
Yeah, it's ugly.
Well, I wouldn't say that because a special guest interviewee who will be joining Treknicity here very soon was one of the designers of that ship.
So I get to tell him his ship's kind of dorky looking?
I wouldn't do that because I'll tell you why off camera.
Why? Because he knows where I live and he has a hit team that'll send after me to kill me?
Probably,
oh, wait.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway. So then we get to meet the security team. And it is led by, what is it, Lieutenant Commander at this point?
Commander.
By Commander Ro freaking Laren, who we haven't seen since she went off the Maquis.
Yep. She left basically Starfleet and joined the then terrorist organization, the Maquis, which were made up largely of Bajordans who were acting as vigilantes because they felt that the Federation wasn't doing enough to punish the Cardassians for the brutality that they visited upon the Bajorans during the occupation.
Until the Dominion came in and wiped them completely out of existence.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So she asked permission from Shaw to come aboard. Meanwhile, Seven grabs Jack, takes him to hide him.
Yep.
So, because, yeah.
She does so by giving him a uniform to put on. This worries him because, of course, in the cold open of the episode, he freaks out because he has the vision of shooting everybody on the bridge dressed as an officer. So, of course, he's like, hell to the no. And she's like, look, what better way to hide you than in plain sight?
So, basically, Ro informs Picard and Riker Starfleet is requesting to submit to questioning and that anything could be used against them if charges are brought up. Riker asks what the charge is, and she says treason. Ooh,
scary.
So yeah, then we get the scene where Seven gets Jack into some Starfleet uniform action. Beverly in sickbay. Beverly and Dr. Oak are doing the autopsy on the dead changeling,
of which they realize when Dr. Crusher pulls out the laser scalpel, she does an incision on the changeling's right arm, realizes that there's a blood-like plasma there, and they realize now that the changelings can pass the blood test.
I mean, the only thing that when you get down to scanning is that it has no DNA, but yeah.
But usually that isn't, like, as far as I understand, that's not part of the criteria. It's usually that they do a blood test, which, of course, the thing is, I mean, it's probably for story's sake, that the reason why that gets by is because realistically, if you start doing a little bit deeper digging, that the story is going to kind of fall apart. Which, I mean, look, we're really not going to fault him for that. It's a good little twist, kind of the M. Night Shyamalan ding dong. What a twist!
Also, I think the whole reason they do it with the blood thing because you could very quickly do that with anything with anybody and be fairly untrained. Not like they have these things. Like they have a portable scanner that can do detailed medical things like. I don't know, a tricard or something.
Like do a DNA analysis right away, but
oh shit, you're a changeling.
Yeah, but again, it makes the story, it makes the plot twist.
Otherwise, the story doesn't work.
Yeah, so we'll let them have it. Not a big deal. What a twist!
So obviously, we cut to Picard and Riker, and they're discussing. Picard's pissed because Rollaren's back. And he's still pissed at her. Riker points out it's been 30 years, and the Maquis are no longer an enemy. Picard's kind of still got an issue with her. Riker doesn't so much, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's understandable. I mean, and this is good dramatic storytelling because as you had sort of alluded when you were kind of giving me a little bit of a non-spoiler breakdown prior to me watching the episode, this is a loose end that we never thought would get tied up, and they used this opportunity to do so, which is great. And of course, it's like when after Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2, when I was, because we were in high school when that came out, and another high school friend of mine at the time, were discussing, we're like, oh man, what's it going to be like the next time Picard sees Q? Because it's because of Q they saw the Borg earlier than expected, which means the Borg became an enemy, and then Picard went through this whole ordeal, and in the end it was like nothing. Like they really didn't play that out at all. So but yeah, so it was good that they took this and kind of really used this opportunity to dramatically tie off that loose end.
Of course, it wasn't until the Kurtzman era that they really paid off. Actually, no, I'm sorry. DS9, they started getting things carried over to other shows. But TNG, somebody'd be traumatized, and next week, okay, they're fine. I mean, the only time we ever saw an episode of anybody having to deal with trauma was the episode Family, which followed the Best of the Both Worlds episodes, where Picard goes home and punches his brother. They roll in the mud, and Picard has to deal with it. Oh, then next episode he's fine.
Yeah. But the other thing, there's several episodes where trauma is effectively dealt with in TNG, but they are very localized and they're very, very character driven. There was
Unless it's Deanna Troi getting assaulted, then yeah, it's yep. Okay.
which happens
Okay,
almost on a
just
weekly
keeping it,
basis.
Troy.
But it's
It
like
happens with shocking regularity. At least there's no rape gangs involved.
yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, just a fun little aside here. I was watching the episode where they go to Turkana 4 and they meet up with Tasha's sister Ashara, and I thought to myself,
Oh.
you know what? I said, so I posted to Facebook and I put on the status. I said, take a really bad thing from Star Trek and remove something and make it really cool. So I said, I'll go first, and I put the rap gangs of Turkana 4, and then I suddenly thought, wait a minute, how is that better? No, it's definitely better. Definitely better.
Yeah. Yeah, even if it's terrible, it's better than before.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like the Yo MTV raps gangs of Turkana 4, and it'd still be better. But I digress. But again,
it could be ice wraps, and it'd still be better.
Probably. But the good thing is that they did use this as a great opportunity to dramatically tie up that loose end from that storyline. But again, as you said, we've had a lot of great breakdowns and visitation of trauma in TNG. I just remember, because my wife and I are going through right now, watching through the series. We're in the middle of season 5, and it's the episode where Geordi gets kidnapped by the Romulans, brainwashed into attempting to assassinate a Klingon governor of a frontier planet or something like that, whatever. And then of course the episode where Loaxana Troy starts losing her mind because she starts memories start surfacing of the daughter who drowned. But again, back to the story.
Ro enters the room. Ro says the Titan's under official security review. Most of the crew's going to the Intrepid, and then basically throws Riker out so she can question Picard. Picard's pretty much, how can a traitor pose as a Starfleet officer? Ro throws in her backstory real quick, mentions the changing problem.
Yes, because she turned herself in. They put her in prison. She redeemed herself. She was picked up by Starfleet intelligence to deal with the, with this very issue.
One thing we see in the scene, though, she does not have her earring, which Picard notices.
Did you also notice?
After she slices her hands, see, I'm a changeling.
Of course, that was done specifically because we know in the scene just immediately prior to that, we see the part where Beverly had cut into the changeling corpse and saw the blood. So it was just like, oh yeah, you cut your hand. But he doesn't know this. He doesn't know what she's found just yet. So of course we're like, ooh, is Ro a changeling?
Yep, maybe. So we cut to the guest quarters where Jack's doing more of the I'm losing my mind. He goes, imagines shooting somebody, leaves. So we cut. I don't really care too much about the Jack storyline until it pays off. So we get back to Metalis Prime. Raffi and Worf are waiting when Kryn walks up, a gangster with a Vulcan gangster with Vulcan tattoos on his face, an Idic pendant, like.
Yeah, but he was like wearing it like he was P. Diddy. Like,
it was awesome.
I mean, the dude, all he was missing was like the big fedora and the feather in it, man. The guy looked like a Vulcan pimp.
He's both logical and ruthless as hell. He quickly shoots Raffi, who turns out to have that to be a hologram version. We saw the holo emitter on her thing, on her sleeve, which apparently that's now standard issue and not, what is it, 26th or 29th century technology? I forget.
Well, I mean, wasn't because we had the mobile emitter with that was perfected in the sort of the later seasons of Voyager because of course the EMH was able to leave sickbay.
Of course, this reveals Raffi sitting there in sniper position. Of course, somebody shows up and it's like, okay.
Whoops.
So she gets taken out.
Yeah,
so
she gets captured.
So let's cut to the Titan. They continue the autopsy on the changeling. And apparently the changelings replicated internal organs, everything, and you have to cut them real down before they start going liquid. Oak wonders if new kind, but Beverly figures this is an evolution of the changelings. which means it could be anywhere or anyone.
Dun,
So
dun,
we cut to Ro. Ro wants more continues to question about Jack. Meanwhile, Beverly calls from sickbay. Ro lets him answer, and she says the trust no one thing again.
So of
but
course
Ro doesn't see that.
Yeah, but of course I think he ignores that. Does he not tell Ro what he?
He doesn't tell her a damn thing.
Oh, okay,
because basically she warns him that they pretty much full blood screenings and they're almost undetectable at this point. They go on, so they go back and forth about the things. This is where Ro gives her backstory, where she was with the Maquis and she turned herself in, faced court-martial, was in prison, and of course, because of her experience, intelligence, rehabbed and brought her in, and she worked her way back up, which of course the Admiral Picard never heard about. So,
which of course I'm again, it's easy to call BS on something like that because you're like, how could he not know? I mean, how could it not be something that became in one of his daily briefings or weekly briefings or monthly briefings? You know, like, hey, you remember that?
Or something that would come up the grapevine is that Ro Laren, who used to serve on the Enterprise, is back in Starfleet.
Yeah, or something like. I mean, I understand that he is, he's retired. So he may have been retired by the time she came back into service. But that, again, when he was an admiral, presumably she had given herself up, been court-martialed. So he would have seen something like that she had
maybe.
Okay, look, you can argue the semantics of why something was left out. We're trying to be at least I'm trying to be pretty positive about the whole story. So I just bring it up as a point of reference.
The first 2 seasons.
Yes, very much so.
So basically they go back and forth, continuing this. She betrayed Starfleet and he's being a dick about it. Yeah. So basically she tells him she wants to know about the changeling. So they go to see the changeling, except that she pulls a phaser and there's a change of plan and they step into the holodeck to use the 10 forward set again because they're getting their fucking money out of that set.
Yeah, they really got it. I mean, because they probably they put a lot of money in making that set, so they probably wanted to make sure that they got all the all of the use out of it they can, especially if there's any hidden advertisements in there or anything like that.
Yeah, they're using that more than Sidney LaForge is using her father's name.
Who's Sidney LaForge again?
Anyway, we'll continue. So Picard handily disables the safety protocols. Somehow that's just a button.
Yeah, especially on a ship that's not even his.
Yeah. Of course, she wants music on because the walls are a little bit thin. So she turns and he pulls the phaser on her, and they continue back and forth. And they continue things. He snaps at her in Bajoran. They continue to go back and forth and get to the point where he says, you broke my heart, and she says, you broke mine. This is really, I'm not even going to talk about the scene, but this is really the crux of them figuring it out. They both lower their phasers, and Picard's finally sure that this is the actual Ro Laren and not Changeling Ro.
Right, because Changeling Ro would have not been able to really do the deep dive on everything that happened at this point. So never mind. Again, it's semantics, but again, that's the meat and potatoes of them hashing shit out.
Yeah, so this is where Ro finally says Starfleet is compromised at the highest level and dressed him as Jean-Luc and asks if he trusts her, and he does. He nods, and yeah. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's resolved. Their story is more or less resolved at this point, and now we can get back to the action. So yay.
Meanwhile,
so
back on Metallic Tribe.
So yeah, we cut to Kryn, who's got Worf and Raffi on their knees.
For a second, I thought this was going to be a different kind of Star Trek episode. But...
So the Vulcan crime lord asks if they recognize the location. It happens to be where Worf gave Sneed took a little bit of weight off of Sneed's shoulders, mainly his head. Worf mentions they both work for Starfleet Intelligence, and Sneed was responsible for some death, and yada yada. So basically, he pulls out a couple knives and wants them to fight to the death.
Yes, because here's the whole thing: is that he and Sneed were spiritual brothers because they bonded on the fact that they'd both been brought up in very rough situations, so that they consider themselves kind of brothers from other mothers. So the whole point is, Kryn now wanted to force the same kind of situation upon Worf and Raffi, where somebody's got to go. You know, almost had the like the Joker vibe from the Dark Knight.
Yep. So they want to know who's going to win. So basically, they give a. He says they got 60 seconds or they both die. Worf reminds Raffi what he said about enemy aggression and showing weakness, and that he's going to they sacrificed a great deal for this mission. Forgot his name. Kryn says that that pretty much they're kind of expecting Worf because Klingons. Worf tells Raffi not to hold back. They go and fight, and Raffi stabs Worf, and he falls over dead.
At first, I thought, "Oh my God, did Raffi just turn Worf into a whistle?"
Yeah, tells her Worfy, and of course, this is a good day to die.
Oh man, I just realized something. What if like Raffi and Worf got together? What would like the couple nickname be? Would it be Worfy?
Yeah, we do not need to ship these two.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I just couldn't help it. It just came in my head.
Bitch. So aboard the Titan, the security officers are still looking for Jack.
Senior Jack.
But based on some vocal cues, apparently they're changelings. In the holodeck, Ro is explaining detailing out all the stuff that the changelings are doing. They kind of figure out that Frontier Day is the big thing. It's the anniversary of Starfleet. He's supposed to give a speech, and she doesn't know what's going on, but there's going to be a lot, but the fleet's going to be there, which seems to be a lot of ships in one place.
I want you to do me a favor, since you're kind of looking at the kind of the breakdown of things. Is Frontier Day a celebration of the history of Starfleet or the Federation? Because I thought there was some mention
anniversary of Starfleet.
Okay,
but let me look up Frontier Day. 2401 Frontier was billed as the 250th anniversary of Starfleet.
Which is weird.
Yeah,
that's weird because that makes it 2151 as technically when Starfleet's supposed to have been formed, but we know that's not right because
let's not overthink this. It's Picard.
But hang on, I'm going to call BS on this one for just a second. 2151, as anybody who is familiar with the series, is when the events of Enterprise start. It runs 2151 to like 2156, and 2156 is kind of when the end of the whole thing runs. And I think that there's at some point there's the signing of the Charter of the Federation, which is like 2160 something. I think I'm sure I've got my dates off a little bit, but I do remember specifically that the events of Enterprise starts in 2151, and they are all members of Starfleet and have been members of Starfleet for several years. It is within the first 5-year mission or so of the Enterprise, the NX class Enterprise, is when the Federation Charter is signed. So I'm calling BS on that one just a little bit.
Let's be fair though. It's since the 90s they've been having to retcon shit real bad.
A lot. So yeah, fair enough. Okay, I won't be too harsh on them. I just wanted to call BS on that one because it's like, come on, guys, this is easy stuff. This is you got to you can sit there and say some intern or some PA go we're gonna do this 250 years of something. When does when does like the Federation actually do it? And when does like Starfleet form? Do we have any point of reference? Let me go find. Hang on, let me watch a couple of episodes of Enterprise.
I can't wait till and I'm pretty certain we'll live to see it. I can't wait. Maybe we'll probably live, probably not. I'm gonna fucking die first. Wait till we get to First Contact Day. Then Star Trek falls apart forever.
Forever.
And then that day comes, and oh shit, there's actually Vulcans. Not really. So yeah, they're trying to figure. So Picard and Ro are trying to figure out what they're gonna do. Picard suggesting things like, "Oh, let's go talk to Admiral Janeway." But Ro points out she's pretty much getting stonewalled. So there's some bad shit going on. So yeah. We cut back to Metalis. Corinne's looking over, finds the situation most unexpected. After they check Worf, make sure he's dead, and then they haul him off. Corinne tells Raffi that she works for him, and he has far more to lose. She has far more to lose, like an ex-husband and a son and a granddaughter. Raffi threatens to kill him. And then suddenly the lights go out and people start dying. And it's Worf. Guess he wasn't dead.
Yep. So then he goes and explains that he employed the Kalis method of slowing his heartbeat to an almost imperceptible level.
But he's losing blood, so he's going to kind of skip the interrogation and expects Corinne to figure out probably needs to be alive. Corinne finally decides it's logical just to give him the information so he can be not dead. Because for some reason, being unalived is something he doesn't really want.
Yeah, so he gives up the information on
which is basically how to get into the Daystrom station,
which was a piece of equipment that he had that allowed him to bypass the AI.
Yay!
Which means we'll see somebody going to Daystrom Station to figure shit out. Which at the point is, this is where I'm thinking.
But that's where everybody's going to meet.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. At some point, this is when we're going to see Lore.
And maybe Sidney LaForge's father.
I was going to say, yeah. I was just, you read my mind. I was about to say that at some point we've only got two left to reveal. Lore and Sidney LaForge's father. Oh man. So yeah, so we know we know that they've kind of, again, we're pointing everybody in the same direction at this point.
So yeah, Ro tells Picard that she's transferred most of the Titan's crew to the Intrepid, leaving him with a skeleton crew, warning to make sure they're loyal. She tells him to take the Titan and run. The two security officers searching for Jack show up. She tells them they're returning to the Intrepid. She takes Picard aside, puts something in his hand, and wishes he could look into her heart and understand what she did. Yada yada. And then the security officers argue, but she basically gets them on to she tells him to go into the shuttle and finds out that Picard finds out that she gave him her earring. So we get everybody on the bridge. Shaw makes something about the fastest court martial ever seen because he's got to be because if Shaw's not being an asshole, it's not Shaw.
Yep.
So Picard starts Picard starts telling him about all the shit that he found out. Shaw calls for security. Riker calls him on that. Picard starts saying, "You got to trust me. Really, trust me." Meanwhile, we watch the Intrepid shuttle return back to the Intrepid. The security officers, realizing their deception's been discovered, they set an explosive and transport back onto the Titan. Morph into members of the crew and start searching for Jack. Ro tries to contact Intrepid, but her comms are jammed. She calls the Titan, warning him what's happened. Riker tells Seven to beam her out, but there's a transport inhibitor. and says she has to get closer. But she doesn't have, she says she doesn't have the time to disarm the bomb. So she tells Picard to finish what she started. And the shuttle starts flying towards the Intrepid's port nacelle. Picard begs Ro not to do what she's about to do. Ro answers she's giving them what he gave her when they met all those years ago, a fighting chance. Picard asks her to forgive him, as he does see her now. And then, of course, boom. Ro Laren goes into the refrigerator.
Yep.
Killed for the male protagonist.
Pop.
But there you go. But it's an awesome death, and it's a cool death, and not just, oh, she's dead. She died.
Did you happen to notice on the
serving all the narrative purpose and resolving the big storyline that didn't get resolved?
Right. Did you also happen to notice on the readout on that explosive what those characters were? Those look decidedly Romulan to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to go back and look at it again. But I'm certain, because I watched the episode twice, and I was sitting there looking, like those that language, like the countdown on the bomb, like just looks Romulan to me. I mean, it also could look like Vulcan as well, but I mean, because they're very similar languages. But yeah, I was like, holy crap, is that a Romulan bomb?
Possibly. Either way, Picard, the Intrepid raises shields, arms weapons, and Seven reports they're instructing the Titan to surrender, and Riker says they're going to be afraid for attacking the Intrepid. So they start calling on Shaw to run. Ultimately, Shaw figures it out. Says, "Yeah," orders them, and they take off as fast as they can, and take off just in time for the torpedoes to not hit them.
Yeah. So, and of course, in typical, cliffhanger fashion, the tension is there, the anticipation, the anxiety that they're not going to get the warp drive spun up fast enough to outrun the two torpedoes that have been fired from the Intrepid. But of course, we know just as soon as the torpedoes were just about to hit the warp engines, the ship takes off.
Ooh. Yeah, it's a classic Star Trek move.
Yep, that's a trope that never gets old.
So the security officers find Jack on deck 10, and two others show up to support him. They're trying to put a transport beacon on, take him into custody. Jack kicks into kill mode and disarms and shoots all four of them. And of course, he sees the weird red shit because mystery box.
Yeah, because he pulls the total Jason Bourne thing going on,
Yeah, somehow he turns into super spy from annoying dork. So, yeah. So they've escaped. And from Intrepid, the changelings that we knew of are dead. So Picard's sitting in the conference room when Riker enters, gives him condolences for dead Ro because, well, she did serve her narrative purpose. Oh, wait a minute, didn't say that, but yeah. Picard shows Riker the earring, and then Riker figures out, hey, puts it on something, scans it, old school spycraft. Here's all the data.
That's all the data she'd been accumulating during her investigation into the changeling issue.
So then a transmission comes in, and on the other end is Worf.
Yep.
Haha! So apparently Ro was Worf's handler too.
So yeah, so now we have
band back together.
Yep, we're getting the band back together. So now we have Worf. We have of course Beverly Crusher. We have Riker. We have Picard, and now we have yet to find Sidney LaForge's father. But at least again, we're getting the band back together. That's the link up that we're waiting for, and now we can move forward because we only got 5 episodes left.
5 more episodes. So we cut finally to sickbay. Shaw's kind of stunned. There's 4 more dead changelings. Compliments Jack on his shooting and leaves after Beverly asks for a moment alone. Beverly sees that Jack has been sleeping.
It'd be funny because she makes this whole thing about she knows he's not sleeping. He's like, yeah, I'm not sleeping, and she says, his eyes are, he looks hollow, his eyes are sunken, and all that stuff, and he admits he's not sleeping, and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, what if it just turns out he's just tweaking? Like, what if he's like, what if he's like just a drug addict, and he's been tripping balls?
She notes the 4 dead chains and wonders how he knew they were all changing. He says he didn't, and he thinks something is very wrong with him. No fucking shit. Because he's the mystery box.
Yeah, I want to see them finish up the series without ever having resolved the storyline. Just at the end of it, just like the end. Just like the end, they fly off into the distance, like we did in Star Trek 6.
It's a spin-off for the next series. You know that if they do that shit, then we have to deal with Mystery Box Jack forever.
Shh! Don't jinx it.
I've already thought of this shit.
There is going to be no next generation.
So here's the question: Mystery Box Jack. There's a couple things. Number one, he could be a changeling. Some kind of rogue changing, and that's how he did it. Number two, he could be an android. Either way, that means the real Jack Crusher's dead and he got replaced. Or 3, I'm going to hate what they did because it's the Kurtzman era. Wonder which one I think.
I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Again, we only got 5 episodes left, and at some point before the last 2 episodes, they've got to give us much more insight. So we've got at least within the next 2 episodes, I'm thinking they gotta give us, like, they've got to throw us a bone. They really have to show us what's going on with this character, and hopefully we'll get a better bead on what's going on with him. Because one of the most annoying things, it's like watching The Curse of Oak Island. You're like, by the end of it, they're not going to give you anything really to chew on. You're just gonna be pissed off. You're like, well, maybe next week they'll show us some more, and of course they got you back again. And they're like, damn.
They got to resolve this shit and kill some TNG characters.
Yes.
Because everybody could be on the chopping block by the end, even Jean-Luc himself. Please. Wouldn't be unusual.
Well, it's not like they haven't killed him before.
Let's now remember season 1. So overall, this episode, definitely continuing the momentum of every episode getting more awesome, because every time some cool shit happens and something gets resolved, except Mystery Box Jack.
Yeah. But I guess we'll see what happens in the next couple episodes. Hopefully we get a little bit more meat on the bone for this one.
Yep.
So, with that being said, that is all we have for this episode of Treknicity. Thank you for watching Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast. Please be sure to check us out on all of our wonderful socials listed down here below. You can see them down there.
Yeah.
And also visit us on our YouTube channel at redshirtgeeks.tv, where you can look back at the last 9 years of content, including...
Damn, I feel older.
Including one of my personal favorites, The Odd Trek, which is currently in pre-production.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
I'm Lars.
And I'm Patrick, and I chose the worst time to drink water.
Of course you did. And as remember, to go boldly and to rock out, witchy Spock out. We'll see you among the stars.